Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC, and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. I also live stream my builds and repairs for transparency and educational purposes. So if you would like to get an awesome new PC and you'd like to see it get put together live, send me a message today. Alright, so we're back here again tonight with another budget PC build. So it's just getting to that time of year, you know, like Santa's too busy to build all these computers himself, so Santa comes to me. We all know who Santa is, right? So yeah, that's what's going on this time of year. So we're going to be building a lot of computers for a lot of young people. So with this one, it's a little bit different from last night's specs. It's got the same graphics card, but we've got a different case, and we've got a different CPU and motherboard here. So we've got the Ryzen 5600G here. So this is a much stronger CPU. So what we can do with this particular CPU is, you'd easily be able to put like an RTX 3080 in this rig. It's not going to be a problem. Hey Rodney, how you going? Merry Christmas. It's a little bit early for that. I know we've got Christmas stuff up, but that's the world we live in. So unfortunately, it's not love it or hate it. Yeah, that's the world we live in. So Christmas is.
Christmas orders coming in already.
Yeah, it's already begun. So yeah. Anyway, so we're starting a little bit later again tonight. I've just been held up, just doing quotes for people and stuff like that. Just takes a lot of time getting through everyone in a timely manner, and there's still people who end up missing out because they message me right at the end, right before I'm about to start this live stream, and then just end up having to tell them, look, sorry, let me know all the details and I'll get back to you, and that's really all I can do. So hey Timothy, how you going? And Rodney says I believe. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like there are any kids watching, so the process is, Santa doesn't have time to build all these computers, and his elves can't keep up with all the new PC parts. So
everyone wants a PC.
yeah, so sometimes he'll come to places like Tim's PC and put in an order for a PC. So it happens, and we're going to be doing a few of them between now and Christmas, no doubt. So yeah, watch this space. I'll try to improve my Christmas messages as well. So awesome, man. Good to hear. Alrighty. Well, like I said, we've got the Ryzen 5600G. We've got the MSI B550 Pro VDH Wi-Fi motherboard. We have a Asus GTX 1650 for the graphics card. We've got a Crucial P1 500GB NVMe SSD. We've got 16GB of a Data Spectrix D41 3200MHz CL16 memory. And we've got a Cooler Master 650W power supply, so plenty of power for this rig and plenty of power for any upgrades in the future. And also comes with a 3-year warranty, which matches the warranty on the rest of this gear here that you can see. And the only other thing I haven't spoken about is I've got my old friend here with me, the Antec D600 Flux case. So I've talked about this case a number of times about why I really like it. It's a great case. So if you're looking for a nice case to build in that's really simple, it's not going to give you a headache, this is a really good case, and it comes with a 6-device fan and Rgb controller already built in and installed. Ah, true. Yes, yeah, there's a fair bit of, at this stage there's shitloads of videos. We're coming up to 12 months since we started doing the live videos. So that's something. And it all started with one kid over in WA who was just so keen to see his computer get put together, and he wanted me to take like photos while I was building it, and I'm like, oh, that seems like too much work. Can't I just live stream it? And yeah, here we are. So we get the reverse fan here. We'll probably install that one in this case. We don't have any extra RGB fans to install, but we do get the 3 pre-installed addressable RGB fans there at the front. We have a single black fan there at the back, and we could I'll probably install this as a an extra exhaust fan for this case, because we've got 3 fans blowing in. I'd like to have at least 2 blowing out. Because we've got a nice long grate at the top there, as you can see, that grate runs the full length of the case. It's not just like a little one that only runs part way across like on some cases. So we can fit a full 360mm radiator up the top in this case, which is really good. But it also means that a lot of heat will just naturally vent out the top of this case, just because heat rises. So even if you were to just leave it with this one exhaust fan here, this would probably be enough to draw air up in that direction, and a lot of heat would end up escaping out at the top there. But ideally, you know, volume of air in should equal volume of air out. That means you constantly getting the case filled with fresh air from the outside. You don't have any sort of like positive pressure situation where heat sort of builds up. So anyway, enough about this case that I really like. Let's get started on the build. So there's not really much you can help me with tonight. You could maybe install the power supply. That's about it. What's that? Yeah, I know. You happy now? Alrighty, so we'll have a quick look at this motherboard. It's very similar to the board that we had a look at last night. So we've got 8 pins of CPU power here. We've got a heatsink there on our MOSFET and VRM. We've got our AM4 socket CPU. We have our fan headers. We've got 1, 2, and 3 there. We've got dual channel memory, so 4 slots, 2 channels. We've got our easy debug LEDs there, so 4 little lights that come on and tell you what's wrong with your computer, or at least point you in the right direction. We've got our main ATX power here, so the main power for everything else on our motherboard. We've got fan header number 4 here, which is good having 4 fan headers just in that corner. It sort of helps keep all the cables relatively neat. You don't have cables running all around the place. We've got a USB-C front panel connection if we need it. We've got 4 horizontally orientated SATA ports and a horizontally orientated USB 3 front panel connection there. I really like it when they have a horizontally orientated one. We've got a 5-volt RGB header, and I forgot to point out there's another sneaky 5-volt RGB header up here. So we've got 2 5-volt RGB headers. We've got an independent RGB switch, so if we don't want our RGB lights to come on at all, we can just turn that switch on, or off rather. We've got our front panel connection here, so this is where our power, reset, and case lights go on. We've got a diagnostic speaker header here, so if you've ever turned on a computer and it goes bip, that's the diagnostic speaker saying all okay. We have 2 USB 2.0 headers here. We've got some COM port and various debug headers We've got fan header number 5 down the bottom there. Two 12-volt RGB headers. Our front panel audio connections for our speaker and microphone jack on the front of our case. And obviously around here we have our audio capacitors, and all this stuff around here is related to audio. And over here on our rear I/O we've got our audio connection. So as close as possible to all the other audio on the board, and the reason is because audio is an electrical signal subject to electromagnetic interference from other things, so they try to keep it isolated, or as isolated as you can possibly make it on a printed circuit board. So obviously audio, we've got our Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1 there. We've got just single gigabit Ethernet I think on this board, 4 USB 3.0s, 2 USB 2.0s. We have PS2 port there for our old school keyboard or mice. We have some display ports here. These can be used in this build. We've got a 5600G, but I don't recommend you use them because obviously we have a graphics card and you get better performance out of the graphics card than you will out of the onboard graphics there. And the only stuff we haven't spoken about is just this stuff in the middle. So we've got 2 M2 slots here, 1 PCIe X16 slot for our graphics card, 2 little X1 slots if we had anything else to plug in. We've also got our trusted platform module header here, so I can install this chip if you want to be able to upgrade to Windows 11. In addition to that, there's pretty much nothing else, just this heatsink here. So this is where the chipset lives. This is like the kind of the brains of the motherboard. It kind of interfaces with all the systems and communicates with the CPU in like a structured way. If not, the CPU would just be copying stuff from everywhere on the board. So the chipset kind of manages a lot of these other systems and sort of feeds it back to the CPU. So it gets kind of hot, just like a CPU would. So they need to put a heatsink on that. On the X570 boards, they actually need to put a fan on it. It gets so hot. So, alrighty. That is the main features there of this motherboard. So I probably feel like a little bit of a broken record because we use this motherboard a lot, and it can be a bit of a pain. So just chuck my anti-static strap back on. I usually always forget it, and like I put it on at the start, and then I come around here and start talking about the motherboard, and it just comes unplugged from the back of the computer because I always have it on my foot. It's designed to come unplugged like that when you walk away from the workstation, so you don't like pull stuff as you walk away, because people will obviously forget about something like that while they're working. So anyway, let's get started. So in this case, we are going to be using the stock cooler that we get here. So I don't get to add another cooler to my collection of several dozen coolers. And they're just about to change over to a new socket. So that's good. They're not going to go to waste or anything. Alright. So this is going to be the last generation of AMD CPUs that have the pins on the bottom of them. So after this, they're moving to the LGA type socket, the same as what they already have for their Threadripper CPUs for workstations. And yeah, they're not looking back. So there's a lot of like AMD like hardcore loyalists who are like, oh no, it's part of what makes AMD AMD. I'm like, are you serious? Come on guys. Threadripper's used it for ages. There's reasons, there's technical reasons why they're switching this. They've been nice to consumers for ages, but then they've been kind of holding themselves back. I don't pretend to be an engineer, so I'm not going to tell you about why the whys and hows of the decisions that govern the manufacturing of CPUs. That's a subject for other people to address. But a decision has been made. It's basically to my understanding, it's to do with the power delivery. LGA does it more efficiently, or something like that. Essentially, that's like the simplified version of it. And so Intel have run with it for years. AMD have sort of stayed with the pins for a while, but then there are like Intel CPUs in laptops that have pins on them and stuff like that. So it's not like oh, that's an AMD like socket tech and that's an Intel socket tech. They both use the tech. They both have the means of making it. They both use them for various applications. But when it comes to consumer CPUs, LGA will be the type of socket for the future. So we're not going to be seeing these pins on the bottom of CPUs, which is kind of good because I guess we won't see any more damaged CPUs and broken pins. But how many people are going to stuff up and drop their CPU into the motherboard while they're installing it? So I don't know which is worse, a broken pin on a CPU or a motherboard. I guess a replacement motherboard is going to be cheaper for a lot of the more high-end CPUs, that's for sure. But yeah, as for your average person on a budget, more cheap one, I think either way you're screwed. There we go, that cable's pretty concealed. Yeah. Ah. Yes, yeah. So have I. Ah. That's good. Just a question for people. What sort of like videos do people want to see on the YouTube channel? What sort of content do you want to see there? So we'll chuck our M2 SSD in and we'll put it in the bottom slot just so the top slot's easily accessible. We want to install an additional M2 SSD. Alright, so we've got our board all prepped and ready to go there. So, let's get that out of the way for now. Let's get the power supply in the case. Alrighty. So, alrighty. So here's that RGB and fan controller I was telling you about. It's all built into the board. Sorry, built into the back of the case there. It plugs into the board. That's what I was. See, I was looking at the cables that plugs into the board. You know how your brain works, right? So you've got the 3 plugs here. So you've got the SATA power plug. So this powers it. It gives you the ability to actually power like 6 fans from the one board. And then this cable here plugs into the motherboard. So you can adjust the speed of the fans and stuff like that. So they just run at full speed all the time. And then this one here is for the RGB, that goes to the motherboard as well. Plugs in, so you can control your fans. And then this one up here, so this is the interesting one. So there's this one here, it looks like the reset header that you would normally find bundled with those cables. And it just says RGB on it. And it's on these 2 little pins on the controller there. And what you can do is you can use this as a reset switch, and the button up here that says LED will be a reset button. Or you can leave it plugged in and use the button up there to control the fan light, the fan LEDs. Where's my water? So, I normally actually plug this in as a reset switch. Now, the reason why I do that is because most people prefer to control the RGB with software on the computer. They don't want to just press a button for it. They want to be able to like synchronize it.
That was totally in the way. I don't know why that was there.
It's now too low. That's why it was there. Let me. Where's that thing you put out? One of them's stuck side there. Let's just stick these to the bottom. Stick them to the bottom of the power supply. It doesn't make any difference. These are just little foam feet to make the power supply sit like above the grate at the bottom.
I was wondering why there was only one. Like on the actual case. I was like, that's stupid.
We do it face down. We'll have enough airflow up there. So you put it in just like that. They were stuck to the bottom of the case, but they're just bits of foam with a bit of adhesive on it. So just enough room. Now it'll be nice and easy for you to line it up. Anyway, so these 2 little pins, if you press and hold on those pins, it moves it from motherboard control to button control. So normally what I do is I set it as permanently on motherboard control. Then you can have the lights synchronized with your memory and any other RGB stuff that you have in your case. So that's generally preferable, and that's generally what people prefer. But obviously it's as easy as pulling out the little reset switch and putting it back on those two little pins out there if you want to make use of the LED button there. Alright, so that's one of those reverse fans. We've got another reverse fan. Got an extra one. We'll do two of them. But it definitely got balanced airflow. And we've also got two available spots on our fan controller for two additional fans. Yeah. Hey, how you going? How's the PC going? Have you got your monitor yet? I think Phil's waiting on a monitor, if I remember right. He got the PC. Oh wait, I think maybe he had a spare monitor and he was going to get like some extension, some converter cables, because it wasn't HDMI. Okay, so the only difference with these reverse fans is just literally the orientation that they move air. So they may look upside down from what you're used to, but you'll see that they flow, the air flows the other way around with them. So you gotta sort of make note when you do have a fan that's actually a reverse fan in orientation. Because you do want to make sure that your fans are blowing the right direction. It's not just good enough to have the fan in your case. It's actually got to be orientated right. If not, it'll overheat and then you'll end up bringing it to a guy like me to change the fans, which happens all the time, and it's not anyone's fault. It's not the customer's fault. It's whoever built it's fault technically, because they didn't make sure that the airflow dynamics were right and that the system was overheating. Like, that's why I do a stress test. It's not just like for show. It's just peace of mind. When I ship PCs out all around the country, I've got to be sure that it's working sweet. And then if the customer says they've got a problem, then I know that it's an actual problem, or they've altered something. So but no, this case and fan setup here is ideal, because you've got 3 fans blowing in, 3 fans blowing out, so the heat won't have time to build up in this case. The only thing that, see, this is what people need, like, sort of don't usually understand with like advice on setting up fans in PC cases. There's a way to set it up if you're ultra concerned about dust, okay, and you can limit the amount of dust that ends up in the case. But you will be doing that at the cost of airflow. Dust travels in air, less airflow equals less dust. So if that's important, you have to sort of trade off a bit with the cooling dynamics. But in general, what people want in their gaming PC, they want it to stay cool. So you want to make sure that your airflow dynamics are balanced. You don't care if every 2 months you have to take the side panel off and hit it with the leaf blower for like 2 seconds to blow the dust out of it in one big like burst of air. But you don't really care about that. That doesn't take long, and it means your computer's running cool the whole time. And that's usually what people prefer. So that's why you hear me talk about, you should have balanced airflow. Volume in should equal volume out, and all that kind of stuff. So, alrighty. So the only thing I don't like about this case is all the pointless zip ties that they put in. Absolutely pointless. Like this one here is just wrapped around this cable. It does absolutely nothing. And just as like, I mean, I'm not your mum, but I like to get rid of all these cable ties and stuff. I don't like the idea of, scraggly bits of wire with this thin plastic rubber alloy material, for lack of a better word. Maybe polymer would be a better word, but that's still technically something different. I always joke that these cables here, it's someone who got told your job is to tie up the wires, so they tied up the wires. Maybe the person only spoke English, and they're in China, and they were like working with like a translator app or something, and something got lost in translation maybe. I don't fully understand why anyone would waste time paying people to do what they do in every single one of these cases. Okay. We can bundle these 3 cables together because these are for our controller here, and we've got a couple more fan cables here. Let's try to one. Two. There we go. So we've got all our fans plugged into the controller there. We'll pull these front channel connections out of the way. Now as for our fans, let's try to keep them as together as we can. Okay. Sweet. That's fine. Stay loose there. Now, as for the rest of these cables, well, and then those excess cables, we can just tuck them around the side there, out of the way. And now, our cables don't look so bad anymore. Now we've just got 3 different groups of cables to deal with out here. So, we might start with these power cables, because we're only going to be needing CPU and motherboard. Our graphics card does not require discrete power. So,
Oh, yeah. It's just like rolled over and it's belly.
oh,
Wants to.
oh, yeah,
So he's like doing all the cute stuff.
yeah. He's being a cat. Okay. So all of our excess power cables here, we're gonna tie them back just like this. Alright, so now we've just got the power cables that we need. Our front panel connections up here, and our fan RGB controller here. So all we need here is this SATA cable plugged in. So I might just plug that in down here. And we can just stash that cable away with the rest of those power cables. Now we just have the RGB and fan addressable cables. Let's cut off this. So we might get the motherboard in the case. So sorry, Psyduck. Checking in our I/O shield. So we will have a couple of offsets to install. So we're doing a micro in an ATX case. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. The others are in place. So we can, I'm just going to go ahead and slide this down very quickly. And I'm just going to put going to put one screw in because we've got some cables that we're going to run behind the motherboard. So the first one is our front panel audio. Plug that in down there, and we can seal that away there nicely. And the next one, we've got our front panel connections, so our power on switch, etc. Look, they're already, they just came right through. Tiny and came right through. Oh yeah.
Standards going all out.
Yep.
Maybe I was too naughty when I was little.
Maybe. Alrighty, you've got our USB 3, and we can just slide that one up here. Very careful not to bend our USB 3 pins.
I like how it's sideways.
Yeah, it's good.
It doesn't sound too good.
No, it doesn't. 'Cause it's a pain. Okay.
You've got to be really delicate with those things.
You do have to be.
Just mush them in.
Yeah,
because
you've got to
I
be very
made a
careful.
mistake and squished the pins and
You-
had
you-
to fix it.
Yeah, you did that. What did you?
That was on mine.
Was that your motherboard?
Yeah, it was mine. So
Oh,
that
so
was.
you did your to yourself. That's all right. It's how those lessons are meant to be learned. At least it wasn't, you know, live. That would have been fun, wouldn't it?
Oh jeez. Probably not.
Okay.
I think I said a couple of swears, so yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Alright, so we've got our RGB. That's going to be right over the far side here.
So,
Yeah.
Isaac says 18. How you doing that?
Hey Isaac, how you going?
Had more like Tim's new shirt. That is so cool. I want one.
Yeah, well there was only one. There we go. There's all those cables run behind the motherboard. So now we can go ahead and put in the rest of our screws. So you don't have to run the cables behind the motherboard. They do give you holes down there, but it just makes it look a lot neater. And because it's all stuff on the motherboard, by the time comes time to change the motherboard, it doesn't matter if there's screws behind it. Sorry, if there's cables running behind it, because you're taking the whole thing out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You just wouldn't do this if you were planning on like a quick upgrade at some stage. But for this customer, if they upgrade anything, they'll upgrade the graphics card or they'll add some extra RAM. They won't be upgrading the motherboard. It's very unlikely for the life of the system. So not going to be an issue running the cables discreetly. Alrighty. So now we've just got our main power for the motherboard and our CPU power.
Tim,
Yeah.
Isaac's supposed to be in the house.
Alrighty. And that is it. So I mean, you know, you could tidy all this up and tie it all back and make it look nice. But at the end of the day, that is not going to be a problem at all. Because I can very calmly, very gently line that up, close it, it's sort of hard to see from there, but there is no bulge.
She fits nice.
That's nice and smooth. It's nicely. And then I think we only used what, I think a total of 3 zip ties in there. So if anything goes wrong, you know, it's not going to be crazy now getting into it. Alrighty. So last and sort of least. Nah, it's alright. It's way better than GT 710. How many kids are going to be waking up to a PC from mum and dad that's got a GT 710? Like, that they bought on eBay? How many of them? How many thousand do you reckon? That's to all the kids who are not happy about getting a PC with a 1650 in it. There are kids out there that got GT 710s because their parents didn't know. And unscrupulous sellers were selling them as gaming PCs. What? So in this case, we have legitimate blanking panels, not those breakout panels. A little bit of sticky. They kind of care. But no, one day this PC will have a lot more than a 1650 in it. I can tell. I can see the future. Now that's the whole reason why we went with a 5600G in this system. Just definitely wanted to upgrade, and the kid, believe the note from Santa said that really likes Ryzen. And as you know, we build all PCs. We don't discriminate based on brand here too much, unless we've got a reason to. And as you know, I use AMD and Intel PCs every day, so I've got no problems with either. So, you know, Hokke no las dos, which means why not both, roughly. Alright, one budget gaming rig ready to be upgraded in the future. So 21H2 got released, which is a bit of a more of a nerdy PC person thing, but it basically means a new Windows update was released, a major update, and now I have a USB drive with more recent Windows updates on it. So when I go to install Windows, there'll be a few less things for it to download, or it will it'll install the first time with a lot of things that are more up to date than what we used to. So it might install a little bit faster. It might shave some time off for me. What do we got here? We got a B550. Let's flash the latest BIOS on it while we're here.
No.
Before we do anything else. Okay. Do you want to do the honors? Okay, let's go into setup, let's go into M-Flash, and let's flash ourselves up and BIOS. Yeah. It's an awesome case, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites.
Yeah. Like without getting, without going to something like a Leon Lee Dynamic 11, this is really good airflow dynamics in this case. Alrighty. Alright. Shouldn't take too long. And so yeah, for end users, that's that's the average customer out there. It's not recommended that you flash your BIOS unless you have a problem, because of the risk of basically what it's saying there on the screen.
You brick your motherboard.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. If you lose power.
Which means you're gonna ruin
you'll ruin your motherboard if it stuffs up during this process. But we're doing this.
PSU?
Yeah, UPS.
UPS.
Uninterruptible power supply. So if the power goes out here, we won't actually lose power to this computer. So we've eliminated a factor of risk, a major factor of risk. So I can do it, and it's not really a big deal to do it here. At least I know that the motherboard's firmware is as up to date as it possibly can be before I ship it to a customer. So there's less, the probability of them having to do this on their own is reduced. So what have we got here? We've got our Wi-Fi antennae. We can screw them in while this is updating. What's up? Yep.
So it's almost done.
Sweet. I love it when it's done.
Seems like it takes forever.
Yeah, some are worse than others. Sometimes it's like a really big update. Because when it's like skipping past, that means part of the BIOS file is like files within the BIOS didn't have to be changed. So it's like just skips past it. That's why some bits of it take ages to write, and then other bits it just like kind of skips over. Because like it's one BIOS file, but then within that file different lines. Alrighty. Let's activate our XMP profile. Hardware monitor and CPU on PWM mode, and I'll set our pump fan header to DC mode. The other ones I'll just set to PWM. They're not in use, but if we plug any fans in, they'll be on PWM. And our controller we will set to PWM, and we'll see those RPMs dropping now that we've activated that. And that curve can be that looks pretty good to me. Alright, that should be everything we need to worry about in here. Yep. Don't have to worry about configuring anything for our 5600G because we're not using that as the primary graphics output. Oh, better plug in a Windows installation USB because we're just about to go back to the BIOS, I think. I'll plug it in just in time. Oh yeah. Alrighty. This won't take too long. And we got nothing else to install. Just got our usual Windows setup. I can't remember off the top of my head whether this is being shipped or not. But I think that'll be a few PCs to ship off tomorrow. Oh man, remember when Windows used to take like 2-3 hours to install?
Yeah.
It used to be like a big deal. Now I just smash it out like it's like nothing. But I've done it 1,000 times before, so it's quick for me, but it's a pain for other people to go through and set it all up and remember all the different things they've got to set up. And because for an ordinary person, they do it like one time and then they never do it again for like ages. So it's like, even though like nothing's hard, just remembering it all can be a pain. It's bad enough when things go wrong.
Just was the test.
You can go under there, mate. You can crawl around under there. Just don't freaking crawl around on the test bench. You can't walk on a motherboard while it's being used, okay? You're not wearing your anti-static strap. It is not safe at all. That's right, Mao. Yeah. No, sorry, man. What's happened? Just out of curiosity. I may be able to point you in the right direction, but usually if you want to pay someone to start resoldering capacitors and resistors and stuff, like, what have you got? Have you got like a really high-end graphics card or something? Is it really worth fixing? Because if you can't do it yourself, you got to ask yourself, is it worth paying someone to do that properly? Alrighty, so now that all that's out of the way, we can plug in some internet. Unplug our Windows USB, plug back in my USB and get some useful apps off that. But yes, I am curious to know what your situation is. Just depending where you are in Australia or wherever, I may or may not be able to point you towards someone who might have a go at that. It's certainly not the normal thing that people typically offer as a service. Most of the time,
It's kinda like fixing a motherboard.
yeah, it's a little bit.
I can fix CPUs usually.
I could probably do it, but it wouldn't be like the neatest work. That's the thing. To pay someone who will do that kind of work really, really neatly and professionally and stuff, that guy doesn't work for like for chump change. You know, he's getting paid top dollar and he's charging top dollar for that kind of work. So that's the problem, because is it worth paying the money if, yeah. Okay. So all those updates are downloaded and ready to install. Now, R232 or whatever that was. We're not quite up to that version yet.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I typed in R232 instead of R23.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, we're not quite up to that yet. Oh, network drivers installing. Yep.
Rating says 2080 Super Worthless, 8 GB of CCG as it's under warranty. But told that it's been hard to get repairs refunds. I just bought 3080 Extreme waiting for it to arrive in case things go south.
Yeah.
What happens, smoke under black
You might
backplate.
you might just have to send it back under warranty and just
He has
hope
sent it
that,
back.
yeah, just accept that it's going to take a while. Yeah. That's really all you can do, because yeah, like
Smoke under the back.
if you
that
yeah,
doesn't sound too good.
if you
Hopefully they should fix that. It's under warranty.
yeah, it should be all good.
Tim's had to send a couple of cards back for warranty. It took a while, but
Yeah.
they fixed them.
They do, yeah, they do fix them. It just can take a while.
Yeah, I've just sent my phone back and still waiting to hear back.
Because like I said, that guy that fixes them, he doesn't work for free, and he's working for Gigabyte, and they don't pay many of them. Do you know what I mean? Like that they got like one guy for all of Southeast Asia. That's all he does all day. But no, that's kind of the scale of things, right? That's how big business sort of sees it. I'm not paying. Why are we paying a small army of highly trained technicians just to get customers their warranty claims back like really fast? No, sorry, not doing that. That's just excess money for no reason. That's how the big companies see it. Alrighty. That should be all coming along. That looks like it installed pretty smooth there with 21H2.
Yeah,
No, I can't because I got to log in. It's just
Oh.
messy. It's messy.
I didn't know you had to do that. I'm old.
We went through this last night. Weren't you here? Yeah.
Seriously, so
Yeah.
Reagan wants to know if you sell components or just parts.
No, I don't. I don't sell. I don't sell parts.
Sometimes we might have some extra stuff, but that's
Yeah, I don't like.
The only thing Tim has usually of extra is like SATA cables and maybe controllers
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Hard drives, SSDs, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The things that I keep on hand, I don't. I'm not trying to. I'm
We
not
don't
trying.
make
I'm
any
not
money
trying to
on
make.
parts.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like
It's all
beat
just
any
pure labor,
retailers on parts because I can't compete with companies like Scorptech and
No.
Newmart that can
Oh.
go, oh yeah, we'll just buy, we'll buy 1,000 of those motherboards. I can't compete with that. They get them cheaper. So I don't try to be a parts retailer. That's how a lot of people go wrong trying to start a PC business, is they think that they're going to be the next Umart and they're not. Umart and places like that will cut their own margin to keep their place in the market. Okay, that's how big businesses like that roll. Okay, so they don't care. They don't care about they're looking at the long term. They're looking at the big picture. They don't care about they see a new player trying to compete with them. They're just like, yeah, okay, no worries. We'll just write off a bit of money, and we'll suffocate them, and they'll go away. And that's how they roll. So yeah, I don't really try to do that. If you're local and in Brisbane and need stuff, spare parts and stuff, I've got all that sort of shit here, so you can buy that off me. But yeah, like there's no money in for me, you know, graphics cards and stuff like that. It's like it's $20 here and $30 there, and it's not worth the time that you have to invest in like keeping up on that. There's a guy out in Ipswich who was trying to set up like a parts website and stuff, and he was getting things drop shipped direct to customers from wholesalers and stuff, but he just couldn't manage it. He couldn't keep up with all the price changes to manage the website and stuff because he didn't have, he wasn't at the scale where he could have a full-time pricing manager like Scorptech and Newmart have. Like they got someone who's just full-time job is just to look after the pricing of all their products or their online store.
Like what we used to do it up.
Yeah, I've had positions like that.
Buying.
Yeah. So I know how it goes. I know how it goes. So you'll have a pricing manager who will, you know, their job will be pricing and making sure the margin's there. You know, as a pricing manager, comes down from the top, the big wigs at the top of the company. We need an extra $20,000 by the end of the week. Make it happen. As a pricing manager, you've got to go and put $20,000 into pricing. But you got to do that strategically in a way that you're actually going to get the $20,000. That's the challenge of it. So, but the point is, I'm getting sidetracked here. Big companies like that, they got resources for people just to work on things like that. So it's almost impossible for a small person to try to keep up with the shit that they do. So
Stop swearing to my
I can't stop. You know, I can't stop.
It's meant to be little people watching.
How little do you think? But yes, that is the world we live in. So I match Umart on price. So if I can get some parts cheaper than what Umart sells them for, I make a little bit of a profit there, but it's not really much. In general, I just match them on part prices because it's just like I said, it's too hard to try to beat them. I make my money from service and labour, not from not being a retailer as such. Alrighty. But yeah, if you wonder why, if you go into random PC places and they've told you they don't sell parts and stuff like that, this is why. So there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them out there that, you know, well, we only sell complete systems, and we only do this, we only do that.
Do repairs here.
Yeah, we only do repairs and blah 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 blah. We sell second hand and repairs, but no, we don't sell any like parts on their own. Because yeah, that's the world that we live in. We can't compete with with big companies like that. You know, that's why there's not like, you know, 10 million different sorts of like supermarkets out there, because you can't keep up with Coles and Woolworths. There's only one or maybe two organisations that can kind of keep up with it, and that's like Metcash and maybe Drake's.
So
Yeah.
Odin says,
I bet your text form is better than theirs though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have anything against them. Like, Umart's pretty big in southeast Queensland. They refer people to me because they get
maybe
people.
Tim's quicker at responding than they are.
Yeah, well, see, they'll get people come in, and they'll be like, oh, something's wrong with my computer and all this, and oh, I need it fixed, and it won't be something that the guys at the counter can just, you know, walk them through in 5 minutes. It's something that has to be like diagnosed and investigated. And UMart will be like, well, look, you know, we can't just stop what we're doing. It's got to be investigated, so we're going to need it. We're going to need it for a couple of days. We'll give you a call back. And some people are like, nah, I need it like today.
Yeah.
And that's when I get sort of referred when it's situations like that. So most of the times people are happy to wait a day or two to get their PC looked at. They don't have to pay any extra money. But sometimes if that person's just like, yep, you know, really need it done today, then call me, got a priority repair, and then it's like, okay, yep, bang, I stick my priority hat on, and you know, we go get it done ASAP for the person. So yeah, like customer service is all relative, I guess. So I think we're looking pretty good here. I think that was all of our software. I think GeForce Experience stuffed up on us. And other than that, now that nothing else is installing, it should get through without stuffing up. Look at that. Look how fast it installed. Yep. Alright, well, let's reboot and let's run some benchmarks on it, stress test it, and get it ready to ship off. Oh yeah.
Sound is going all out.
Yep. Oh.
Uh-oh. We need to do something about that. But I don't want to put blue tack on it. Because I don't want to ruin the...
Psyduck's been the unofficial mascot here for a little while.
Someone requested it, so he's just stayed there, and he's going to stay there.
Yeah, someone was like, we like the duck. Alright. So let's get our time and date adjusted. I don't remember.
Psyduck always has a headache.
I don't remember where I'm shipping it
Computers
to.
are headaches, so hand in hand.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay. So let's turn off some of this annoying shit that starts up automatically. Like these gaming apps, like I'm sure we can decide what games we want to play. Yep. Alrighty. So we've got to Install Dragon Center here. That's take a little bit of extra time. While it's doing that, we can set up the overlay. Okay, so that'll just do its thing. Yep, yep. Alrighty. It's all coming along, looking pretty good. I think we've got everything that we need here. Yep. Alrighty. Actually, what do we... Let me have a look at some gaming benchmarks while it's doing this. So, let's run it on low, because I wanna see how the 1650 performs to a 5600G on low settings, because that's what you'd normally use the 5600G on its own. So people might be interested to see that. So we normally get around the 80 frames a second. Oh, hang on, it's stuffing up for me. There we go. So 80-ish frames a second here in the opening scene. So double 160 frames in the opening scene here on low. Oh, it's yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Okay, Windows.
Well, I got to tell you some quick stats there.
Windows is like, no, you stop. Yeah, I don't care what you're doing.
Yep.
It's good at that.
Yeah, I love those unplanned restarts. They're good fun. But we're pretty much home at this stage.
Rgb with software.
Oh yes, I will.
Or do you have to use the controller of sorts? Is there a controller?
That's on motherboard control.
Oh, okay. Cool, now it's like matching.
Wasn't it matching it before?
Not really. The both the RAM sticks were sort of their own thing.
That's just from Dragon Center. All I adjusted there was the fans. Coincidence. Alright, so now that's doing its thing. Let's try that again. No, it's just running. I never bother running the actual the benchmark as such. Oh, I never did it. The only one I do it for is what do you call it? Superposition. Because Heaven and Valley are kind of legacy benchmarks at this stage, because they're just DirectX 11. So, like, I mean, they're still relevant because a lot of people play games in DirectX 11 and all that kind of thing. But they are they're older models, so that they check out. They're as good as running any other. We got a little bit of a dip there. That was most likely. Yeah, there you go. It's Dragon Center reloading itself. So this is how you run if you got a GTX 1650. This is the sort of settings that you run because you want to have this nice smooth 140 frames plus frame rate. So those temperatures very well behaved. Yeah, but remember this is running on low, not high. Yeah, it's good. It's about twice what a 5600G. Like it's a bloody good APU, like for a CPU that has a built-in GPU. I suggest them to people all the time as a budget gaming PC. You've only got like $1,000 to spend. Buy that, get started, and put a decent power supply in it, and then upgrade it in 6 months when you've got some more money. Chuck a graphics card in
Next time.
it. Yep. Exactly right. Yeah. If I could get a 2080 Super, I'd be happy to get your price on it. But they don't make any of those GPUs anymore, so there's no new stock of 2080 Supers.
2080s.
No, you can't get 2080s.
Oh, no.
Only 2060s.
Oh, I take that back then, sorry.
No, so roughly equivalent of 2080 Super is going to be like a 3070 Ti or something. So
No, I'd go 3060 Ti.
yeah, 3060 Ti is a better value proposition.
So much cheaper.
3060 Ti, 3070, and 3070 Ti are all
They're
the
all in the same ballpark.
yeah, they're all NVIDIA GA104 GPUs. Oh, 2060. Yeah, there's still like bits and pieces floating around. 2060 is like the main one that's in stock. The Supers are kind of hard to come by. But like realistically, you either go like 2060 and they come in around the $700-800 mark. Then basically spend from there. You don't bother with 3060. You just go 3060 Ti, and then 3060 Ti. That's like $1,300. 2060, 2060 Super, 3060. They're all like they're very similar. Yeah, I think it is. I think they're just being distracted. It's been going for a while, I'm pretty sure. Alright, so this should be all up to date. Probably network driver thing. Nope, it's installed everything. Perfect. Excellent. Mystic Light.
I don't like Norton.
No, we don't use Norton. Okay, so let's run Heaven. So once again Valley. I'm getting tired. It's nearly bedtime for me. Let's run the last one. Alrighty. So there's our 720p results there. Okay. So where does a 5600G sit? So 5600G is a pretty bloody good CPU. So there it is there. Scored a 588 when I did the test. So it's beating the Intel i9 10900KF, 10900K, 10850K. It's beating the 11400 and 11400F. And all of these other CPUs. It's right up there. Right up at the top tier of CPUs. This is gaming performance here. And over here is our productivity performance. And we can see that it's just slightly under that average there. And you get that when you run the test. It's either going to be above or below that average on any individual run. You can see it's keeping up there. It's just shy of the 5600X, and this CPU is $100 more expensive than this right now. So that's not $100 difference right there. So that's why you've seen me use a lot of them in gaming PC builds, even though we don't need the onboard graphics. And got hardware monitor open. We'll start our stress test. So we use Cinebench and we use Furmark. And so the point is here with the stress test, we're putting it under a load that it's never normally going to be under. So what we're going to do is going to make it run a 3D game on maximum settings. That's what this furry donut is. And while we do that, we're going to start doing some video rendering. So we're going to game while we're doing video rendering. So this is going to put the system under a lot of stress. And so we're going to log the temperatures here and make sure nothing overheats or anything like that. And so yeah, what we're seeing here in Cinebench, if we open up Task Manager and go over to our Performance tab, it'll be a bit slow and unresponsive while we're stressing out the computer like this. So, we've got a CPU at 100%, our graphics card at 100%. So we've got these 12 boxes here you can see in Task Manager, and over here we can see 12 blue boxes working on this image, and that's the same blue boxes, essentially, the 12 threads of our CPU. So they're all working on calculating this image, and the graphics card's hard at work rendering our 3D donut down a corridor. So we're putting the system under a bit of stress there, and the whole point of that is to make sure it's not overheating and that none of our components are like just gonna fire up once and then die. That would kind of suck, because that is actually a thing. So, alrighty. So we'll throw it over to anyone still watching. It gets a bit boring towards the end. A few people will just just sign off when we get to this stage. But if anyone else is still hanging around and has any other final questions for me, now is your time to speak, because I'm just about to sign off. I'll just give it a couple of minutes there. No, I think that might be it for the night. Yep. Excellent. So thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, especially YouTube. Come on, we've got we're pushing 2,000 subscribers on Facebook, and we've only got just over 300 on YouTube.
What's going on?
What's going on? What's the deal? Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with some more PC builds. So, yeah, stick around for that. Have a good one, everyone, and I'll catch you all in the next video.